insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets. Hosted by Dan.
To understand the outcome of your life that is not dependent on your parents anymore. It's not dependent on their life. Try to do something. Go and donate your time to an organization. Try as much as you can to even read books. I am a lover of good books actually, and this is the time to learn. Use it to write visions, use it to, just to crack up, even build a relationship with yourself and with God. Because outside here, it's like a jungle. And I remember biology very well taught
to capture, especially when they're introducing a new brand into the market and something that you hacked yourself. What are some of the things that you think most people will always have a problem when they're introduced?
So I think most businesses fail just because they don't want to, remember, no risk, no story. No risk, no continuity. For me, I really had to went to Eldoret, So I think we really have to invest. If you have to, to introduce your product, or rather to introduce your brand, the first step is to invest. This is the brand that is. So even whenever they'll find it anywhere in future, that Golden Spark brand is mine, and they will have to relate it with me. So I think the first step is always to create that emotional step, follow you. It's not something that you'll stay looking for. I don't think as young people we actually need to. Your life is your responsibility. And immediately you have your parents anymore. It's not dependent on the life that you lived. It's now dependent on the decisions that you make. If you choose to stay idle, remember that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. But if you choose to stay busy, keep yourself. Whenever opportunities don't open, it's your time to write visions. So use that time very preciously and with God. Because outside here, it's like a jungle. And I remember biology very well taught us that survival for the fittest.
Bringing a new brands, companies also always fail to capture, especially when they're introducing a new brand into the market and something that you hacked yourself. What are some of the things that you think most people will?
So I think most businesses fail just because they don't want to, remember, no risk, no story. No risk, no continuity. For me, I really had to doing a wholesale purchase in Nairobi, importing them to Eldoret, So I think we really have to invest. We'll know you. Remember, we never had a brand in terms of our packaging, but first we started with the wristbands. So because that was a cheaper way, because we wanted them to understand this is the brand that is. So even is mine, and they will have to relate it with me. So I think the first step is always to create that emotional step, kwanza. So people to know you first, who you are, what you do, just that it follow you. It's not something that you'll stay looking for. I don't think as young people we actually need to.
By Dan. Entrepreneurs, creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. This is the CEO Show. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 20th day of May 2025. Welcome to the CEO Show. I'm your host, Dan. This is where bold ideas meet with real stories, and this is a place whereby we bring to you real stories from real people, from trailblazers, from impact creators, and also from the visionaries of our time. Every Tuesday, we come to you live, sitting with great personalities. People are going to share their stories. They are going to tell us where they are and specifically what is it that has taken them to be where they are. And tonight, we have another amazing guest prepared for you who is going to share her story. And from her story, I'm sure we are going to learn. Tonight, we are talking about legal matters. We are talking about justice out of the court or beyond the courtrooms. What is the story? Be ready to hear from our guest tonight. Who is our guest? Our guest tonight is Miss Munyua, who is the Executive Director and also the founder of CELSIR. Tell me, it is
CELSIR. CELSIR.
We were making some joke and we were trying to get the name right, but it is CELSIR. And this is an organization that look forward to advocate and also provide legal support and also rehabilitation for many people out of the court. What is the story? Be ready to hear. But before we hear from her, make sure that you follow us on YouTube, also on Facebook. We are right there. And make sure that you drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from and tell us if you are getting us loud and clear. Welcome, Miss Anne Munyua.
Thank you so much.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
And you look good, definitely.
Asante.
Okay, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling all right, excited to speak about what I do in life and the lives that we impact.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about your background and also your journey, probably to where you are. I'm sure it is a long story, but if you can get a brief about it.
So, as you said, I'm Anne Munyua. I was born in Kakamega, raised in Kitale. I schooled in many parts of Kenya and outside Kenya. So I often say that I am a Kenyan. Actually, you can't really pin me down to a location in Kenya or to a tribe.
Okay.
So because I have interacted with almost all peoples from within our borders. Beyond that, I'm a lawyer. Professionally, that's the work that I do. I represent people in courts and outside court on legal issues. I am also a mother and yes,
Okay.
in brief.
Taking us back now, did you grow in Kakamega and did you go to school back in the days? Did you study in Kakamega? Tell us about your journey back in the village.
Yeah, so back in the village, I was born in Kakamega and raised in Kitale. So immediately I got born, my father moved to Kitale and he started his practice in Kitale, and my mother followed soon after. So all I know in terms of growth is Trans Nzoia, but I was born in Kakamega.
Your dad was also a lawyer?
No,
Okay.
no. He was practicing a different profession. No,
Okay, I want to
not a
understand,
lawyer.
like, you as a young girl, now to become a lawyer that you are, is it an inspiration that you got way back, or is it, Was there somebody that you looked up to, and you as a young girl, did you ever saw that one day, one time, you will be standing in the docks?
Yeah, I did. As a young girl, I think I was around 3 years. Could you imagine that I saw a movie about a girl who went to Yale Law School? And I was like, that's me, that will be me. I was very young, and along my journey, you know, almost every child thinks that they're going to be a doctor, you know, this. And, but towards the end of like fourth year, I mean, from 4, I think at that point, it came back to me, the law. So when I was picking my careers out, I ended up picking law because like I focused on what I'm good at, my strengths. And I realized that they were all leading me up to do law. On the flip side is that my grandfather was murdered brutally. And I think I was in Form 1 at that point. And my mother and just her siblings, they were quite, I would say, they didn't know how to go about that whole issue legally. And so
at that time, you are a young girl.
Yes, I was in Form 1, and I could be able to tell, like I could see how frustrated she was and in not getting justice for her father. And I felt that actually was my calling. Yes, so when I pursued, and actually when I became a lawyer, I was really out to get the criminals.
Okay.
Yes.
So at that time, when you saw your grandmother going through these, at some point you felt like something could have been done to find justice also for your grandmother and also for your grandfather.
Yeah.
Is it something that triggered your mind?
It did, yes.
And inspired you, like, in the near future, this is what I want to pursue?
Completely, because just right from information, just legal advice, they didn't have that. They didn't know who to go to. You know, there's this perception that lawyers' fees are very expensive, and they truly are. But there are pro bono lawyers, there are pro bono avenues, there are areas you can be able to get legal advice. But all this was not known to us at that point. And I guess this secrecy, or this, I think, I would say it's just lack of information. It really is frustrating to people who are just trying to get their way around the law, and especially if they're really aggrieved and like the victims, so to speak. So it is very important. Even for those perpetrators, it's very important to have legal information.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then immediately, Form 4 results came out, and you managed now to get and pursue the line of study.
Yeah, and by then I wasn't a very strong student. Like really, I wasn't really passionate about school until at some when I was in class 8, my mom came to me and she told me that I think for the first time I realized that it really meant something to her for me to do well in school. And we had a very candid talk, myself and my mother, and she told me, whatever it is because we were going through some bit of things at home, she was like, let that go and allow me to pray for you. You focus on school. By nature, I'm those people who are very family oriented. So if something were not happening well at home, it would really affect me, and that really reflected in my studies. So when I focused on education, as she had, because for the first time, it became important for me to excel in school, because I felt that my mother really, really wanted me to excel. And I was just those students who used to be in number 20s, and I moved to number 3. And from then onwards, I was just doing quite well but in law school, I did even better, because I think I struck that nerve where I was just meant to be there. I could understand everything. It wasn't a hassle for me to get what was being taught in school.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you did your bachelor's in, that is, Munyua University?
Yes, I did my LLB in Moi University. I went to the Kenya School of Law, and started my practicing. And I did my pupillage in Nakuru, and then came to Eldoret.
Okay.
I worked for the law firm for a year until I got a job at the county government of Nandi, where I worked for quite a long time.
Okay.
Until I just decided to quit and start pursuing my passion, which is I started a law firm,
Okay.
and also the Center for Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation, which is CELSIR.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, before even talking about CELSIR and also you moving out of employment and starting your own law firm, that was OMG,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And practicing self-employment and all that. But I'm sure the job that you are handling at Nandi County, it was quite lucrative and also it was well paying. But what is it? What was the push that made you step out of employment and chose to pursue your own course?
Well, yeah, you're right. Employment is really good, and it really makes you feel comfortable, and you know, like you have this constant place where you get that salary. But beyond that, there is growth, self-development, and just that drive and push to be able to grow from. And especially for me, I always focus on how best I can build up on my skills from today to, you know, to the projected future. So it reached a point where growth was no longer forthcoming for me. And so that was the first thing. The other thing is that I realized that I hadn't gone to the county to be a lifelong counsel, legal counsel. I'd gone in to just get the experience and move out. So I felt that I had overstayed my stay, and I thought that it was the right time, but it wasn't an easy thing, because everyone, my family, my friends, everyone would tell me, how could you just give up a job that is reliable, that you have prospects in and you're very dependent upon. So it was really a hard choice to make. But once I did it, and actually opening the law firm, because when I was opening the law firm, I wasn't going at it to get into a partnership, but my colleague, Mr. Odor, who is my partner at the law firm, he approached me and was like, I know I've heard of the grapevines that you want to open a law firm. And I was like, yes. So he was like, why don't we do it together? And when we were working, we worked together at some point. And when we were working there as just young people, we used to say, our farm, you know, we used to talk about how we would be partners and all that. So
that was jokingly.
Yes, jokingly. And then when he just asked, it was so natural. I mean, I couldn't envision of any other prospect. That was a yes for me. So we opened the law firm, styled, and in the name and style, Odor, Munyua, and Gerald, attorneys at law. And I would say that is one of the most wonderful partnerships I have ever encountered, because of honesty, transparency, and accountability, which is existing between the both of us, and professionalism, of course. So yes.
And now, because also we speak to people who sometimes have the thought of leaving employment and stepping out into new waters, and sometimes people have this fear of uncertainty, what might happen. But just speaking about the same, what you went through, because I'm sure it wasn't an easy thing for you to get into self-employment and also to run your law firm.
Yes.
How did you prepare for it? What was it that was going on? Because I'm sure were you ready, or is it something that you woke up one morning and thought about venturing into this?
You know, I thought I was ready, but really not so, because it was capital intensive. It demanded a lot of time and energy. It demanded, you know, you had to bring in your A game, because this is your life on the line. All the savings you think you have, you use them up, because you're not just doing one organization, you're doing two. You're also doing your life. You also, you know, as a lawyer, people imagine that you have money, friends, your family. you have social responsibilities and all that. So quickly you realize that even that money you thought you had saved up for the rainy days, it's not enough, and it's actually going to, you know, be over in a few days.
Okay.
What I would advise is do it. Don't be too prepared, because I think that is what delayed my journey, especially with CELSIR, because CELSIR has a sister organization in Nigeria. And my colleague in Nigeria started it immediately, and she didn't have a lot of money. She just had, I think it was $2,000. And here I was thinking that I needed to prepare, get all the money, get all the staff, get all the, you know, the right people, all the partnerships going. But I'm a thinker on the other end.
You wanted to check all the boxes.
All the boxes. But then I realized, and I think it's because I started OMG, the law firm, I realized that you can never be too prepared. And I also encountered some guy at the prison. So I used to do pro bono work, but not pro bono in the normal sense, because we have a pro bono setup in Kenya where lawyers are matched with clients who have committed capital offenses. I used to go to the prison, get people who are needy, and give them legal assistance. So I would actually, so it is giving legal assistance at no cost, or a very negligible cost, but not the average. Like when a lawyer says they are a pro bono lawyer, they're actually paid, and paid well. So, but for my case, it was quite different. So when I realized that I was actually doing the job, so why not start it? Why not just start? So I decided to register the organization, and began with my friends, the people of goodwill who would actually think that Anne had to vuta ile stuff. And, you know, because most people used to think that I am just dreaming,
You're
you
under
know.
influence.
Yes, I'm under influence, you know, I'm living in the clouds. But there are people who really took me seriously.
But Anne, just to interrupt on that, as you were thinking of forming this organization, what was now the bigger picture? What was it that you were seeing at the end of the day? Because here you had the law firm, of which if you could have given it whole, I'm sure it could have paid off, and you could be comfortable about it. But here you're going an extra mile, starting an organization that you are not even sure about. But what was the bigger picture about it?
Service to humanity. That was the bigger picture. And also what I wanted to do was to bring value, and to also, you know, be that helping hand to the people who are most needy. If you visit the prison, you'll realize quickly that it is filled with not privileged persons, but very underprivileged people. You will quickly realize that these are not the worst of the worst case people. These are people who did not have access to legal support, legal advice, who could not afford a lawyer, who could not afford to pay a bribe, because we live in Kenya. So basically, we have a lot of, you know, miscarriage of justice going on. And I used to do the pro bono work, as I said, but I wanted to go big. I wanted to go beyond the legal support. I wanted to see that the people I'm helping, once they go to the society, they are able to find support to be able to not go back to crime, to create safer communities in the long run, and also to, you know, to have a meaningful life. At the end of the day, this is a very rewarding thing, to touch humanity. So that was the bigger picture for me. Yes.
And now, as you are getting into this, because somebody said that sometimes there are people who are behind bars, there are people who are in prisons who are not supposed to be there. How true is it?
Very true. Extremely true. Again, as I said, that a lot of people are behind bars because of lack of information, legal knowledge, just basic legal knowledge. I'll explain in a few. Number two is because they're poor, that poor. They can't afford a lawyer. They're illiterate. They've never gone to school, and here is, you know, they're being read out their charges in English. And probably they are so afraid to say that, hey, I don't understand. I just know Kale. I don't know, even if you read it in Swa, I don't understand. And some of the terminologies are even worse in Swahili. And the other thing is that they can't afford a bribe.
And also the prosecutor is here reading out things that probably they cannot comprehend.
Yeah, and the system, the legal system with the legal jargon, those lawyers are just sometimes with the clients tell me that, hey, you guys were whispering. What were you saying? Because, the bench and the lawyers sit right next to the court, who is now the bench. So they communicate, and the people at the back, sometimes so we don't have PA systems in court. It's really frustrating sometimes to them. Now, I want to give you an example of a case scenario where you would have very innocent people. Not per se, but sometimes innocent, because there's a guy, who used to work at Nandi County. He was a tea plucker. And after the day's work, because tea plucking, you're a casual basically, and you get paid daily. So he was drunk. And I think for those people, that is their lifestyle. And he wanted to get his pay for the day. He went to the employer, and the lady is like, no, I'm not paying you. I think because he was drunk, probably. So she was angry. And beyond that, she started hitting him. It was like a confrontation, and she hit him until he got a cut. I think it was on the left side. And he fell. So he just thought to himself, what can I do? Because this is my employer. So he stood up, and in that process, he stood up suddenly, and in that process she fell off, and he ran off. Next thing is that he's being arrested. What are the charges? Can you imagine that he was being read? He was being told that he had done robbery with violence. That's a capital offense. For sure. So when he had that interaction with the complainant, this complainant tells him, okay, just accept it, and then tutasort. So
this is a guy who cannot even afford a lawyer.
Illiterate, doesn't know all these things. And by the way, capital offenses, you're supposed to be matched with a lawyer. But in Kenya, it's only the murder cases mostly, unless the case is very technical. So the charges got read out, and as had been agreed, he said that he had done it. He accepted. And on his own plea of guilt, he was put on death row. Death row, that's the capital punishment. That is, you have to suffer death. And let me just paint the picture. If you are the hangman, you would have to stand there with a doctor to ensure that this person being hanged dies, literally dies. So he has to dangle until he stops moving. And even then the doctor has to confirm that, okay, this guy is gone. But we don't execute anymore. But basically, he didn't understand what capital offense was, what robbery with violence was, what death row meant. He had very tattered clothes. If you get on our website, you'll find one of the clients we had there with he's the one. Very tattered clothes, and just completely out of it, completely not in the picture of how he can even assist himself.
Even at some point, he's not even sure what he's going through.
Yeah, his life was completely over. But we do have very innocent people. We have misidentification parades. People are...
And financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan.
Before we continue from where it left, just to acknowledge our viewers who are streaming live, we have Gach Munyua is saying that Tuko Live, Koima Mose is watching, Koecha Isaac is watching, Michael Odongo is saying that he's watching live from Nairobi. Great work, my friend. And also we have Chibonandi saying that he's watching. She's watching. Chibonandi is saying that good job, Rotarian. Anne, you are an exceptional leader and humanitarian. Rotary Club of Eldoret Wasingishu is proud of you, our upcoming club president. I think you'll tell us about that. And then also you have Collins Bet Kikiwoi saying that he's watching live, and Munyua is saying that watching you, my friend. Also Malak Kaito is saying that he's tuned in, and many other conversations that are coming in. Please tell us that where you're watching from, and also if you're getting us loud and clear, and I'm sure we'll be in a position to interact in the course of this particular conversation. Remember that our guest tonight is Miss Anne Munyua, who is also the executive director and also the founder of CELSIR. That is it. Now, getting to your clients and finding who should help. You're telling us about this story.
Yeah.
But how do you get information of these are the kind of people that needs your help? How do you identify the people that you need to support?
Yeah, basically by interacting with the prison system, visiting the prisoners, visiting the prison officers, and also the work that we do. Sometimes it gets aired and we get referrals from even as far as Mombasa, Lodwar. So I think as we continue to do the work itself becomes, it comes to us. If that makes sense. So yeah, that's how we pick them out, and they also pick us out. Yes.
But over time now, doing this for quite a number of years, you've been working on these reforms, especially on justice systems of our country and also Kenya. What do you think are some of the emerging or issues that should be handled immediately and that needs our attention urgently?
We have a system in Kenya where we have over-policing. Sometimes I fear that Kenya is becoming a police state. But that aside, we have a way where we over-police issues. We have a way where we over-arrest. We incarcerate. We should move away from that into looking at rehabilitation, into looking at addressing the real issues, the real causes for crime, which is poverty, which is inequality. A lot of people at the prison are your average mama mboga, people who cannot just afford to pay a fine of 10,000 or something of the sort. So putting them in prison with people, for example, where they can interact or get, that close interaction with hardened criminals is actually counteractive in Kenya, because then prisons have become we call it criminogenic. Because when you get in a person who is not is a petty offender, and they get to interact with a hardened criminal, then they become, somehow we're telling them something as a system. We are exposing them to these people, and sometimes for prolonged periods of time. There are people who go there and they don't know the processes, awaiting trial for over 5 years, just behind bars, because they can't afford to, pay that bond or get someone to do their bail. So you find that in this period of time, they are able to understand, or to learn from someone who is actually a criminal, how to survive, so to speak. At the end of the day, it really doesn't suit Kenya. We should move away from that and get into rehabilitative programs, into programs that encourage people that, like crime see power movements, which are very, styled in a very nice way to make people move away or think outside the box on how to make their ends meet. And because some of these crimes are actually just someone was hungry, someone was selling their produce at the wrong corner of the town or the city. So when people think about prison, they always think of the hardened criminals or the very on the other prism of crime. But we have very petty offenders who are in prison. We have children. We have people with mental illnesses who need to be, to be given medication. But we don't have a holistic way of addressing these issues. The law should be meted with mercy and restorative processes where we are able to bring, because at the end of the day, almost 90% of prisoners end up back to the society. They become your neighbor, they become your sister-in-law, or someone who you interact closely with, or your employee or employer sometimes. So what are we doing when they're in prison so that they can be able to become upstanding people who are law-abiding, who are able to shun criminal activities and not be able to go back to crime or to reoffend?
Okay.
So if we address that as a society, and this is this is not a judicial system issue, this is society, including us who are out here. We should have, change our perspective of people who offend. Interacting with offenders has really, or rather people who are behind bars, has really brought me to the understanding that anyone can actually go to prison. Actually, anyone.
Anybody can be a victim.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned
Or
something.
perpetrator.
Perpetrator. You mentioned something about now we are being over policed or kind of. Do you think sometimes yes we had the police reforms, we had all that, but also even we've had scenarios where our leaders promise us that we'll have a police system whereby they'll have mercy, as you so said. Comparing with other countries, for example, somebody was comparing, for example, with Tanzania and saying that in Tanzania, a police will request you to handcuff you, and in Kenya, it's quite a vice versa. Looking into the future, are we making any progress when it comes to now policing and also enforcement?
Yeah, looking into the future, and I think these are some of the things that probably with the right partners we can be able to do, is to train, because basically we need to train the police force. They are very good at enforcement, but enforcement is not the arresting. It begins all the way from just what you're saying, introducing yourself as a law enforcer, because how is it, actually, can I give a personal?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I've ever shared this to a lot of people. When I was doing my pupillage in Nakuru, I was just walking from the office at around 6:30, going on 7. And I found these two men in police uniform, and they asked me for my ID. So yeah, I could tell that they were policemen. So I brought out my ID and I handed it to them. And then they said, they told me that, let's go. So in Swahili, twende hivi. And where they're telling me to go is like a pitch dark place, because it was a back alley. Like even during the day, you avoid such places. So naturally, my instincts were like, no, why am I being taken? They're like, but they actually insisted that I had to go that way. And because I was resisting what was now becoming an arrest, the public actually helped the police to arrest me, and I was taken to the back alley, where I realized that there was this Maria, the police vehicles, and a lot of youths, ladies and gentlemen just there, and if you paid 500 shillings, you'd be let go. And so the first thing one of the police slapped me, and I was like, why are you slapping me? And they're like, oh, you think you know your rights? So I was like, why are you arresting me? Okay, what? Just wait up. What's going on?
Because you didn't know the reason why.
There's no reason. It's not even night. Like, what could be the reason? And I was just walking along the street. I was one of the people that I was singled out because it's a busy street. So because I didn't feel threatened at first when they asked for my ID and I had it, I just presented it innocently. So basically what happened is that I refused to pay the bribe and ended up behind the cells. And I knew a number of someone who was quite prominent, and there was a lot of noise making and heads rolling. But basically, you understand, like, if I didn't know my rights and all that, I would probably be, because the OB, when I went to see the OB, soliciting for sexual favors, assaulting a police officer. So there were serious charges that had been leveled against me on the OB. And it was not true. I was assaulted. I was a victim. But they were saying it was the other way around. I was assaulting. I was soliciting. Yet I was coming from work. So basically what we have is sometimes I think that the difference between a police and a criminal is judgment call, because you can't really tell when a police becomes a law enforcer or a law breaker. At that time, they were law breaking. So we need to get to a place where we have a sober community of police. And I think it begins from the leadership and also from, getting information through education, continuous police education, so that they would be able to do the Mirandizing. Like in US, you can't be arrested without being told why you're being arrested, or your rights, that you have a right to a lawyer, you have a right to remain silent. These are things that are not told. In fact, most of our cases in court go through because of what we call confessions, but they're obtained illegally, most of them. And it's because the police don't tell you your rights.
Your rights.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, and also as we proceed about that, because you had mentioned something about the prison also, because the prison is always meant to make people reform and also to make people get to their right way and rightful ways. But what is the state of our prisons in the country, and what is the current state basically?
I would say that our prisons, the ones that I've interacted with, are doing a good job, especially at reforming. But they're quite underfunded. So we have a lot of programs that they could offer, but because they don't have a lot of funding, it becomes troublesome. The other issue is that being a protected area, just to get that go ahead and to get that signal, they call it signals, to be able to interact with the prison community is not an easy thing for organization and well-wishing organizations like CELSIR to be able to bring in our programs. For example, if you have psychosocial assistance that you can offer, if you have education that you can bring into the prison, if you can teach them a skill or two. But as an organization, they're doing quite well. They're doing quite well, given their circumstances.
Okay, and that is now where you come in. Sometimes you find that people will always go back to do the same. For example, after somebody has been released through the process and all that, you find that sometimes you find that somebody goes back to do the same crime that he or she did before.
Yeah.
Sometimes it becomes detrimental to the community. What is it that pushes people to? Is it that we don't have a clear follow-up after this, or is it that we fail to? And that is where you're coming in terms of rehab and all that. Is it that our prisons are not providing enough thoughts and lessons to ensure that somebody becomes or goes back to their normal life without getting back to crime?
Yeah, so this is the reintegration bit. Reintegration is a wide topic because it goes beyond a person being told, okay, leave the prison premises. This is a place where they're used to, after every hour, being counted. You have to crouch and be counted. Used to bells, used to systems, wake up at this time, eat at this time. You know, very structured. And they're going into a system where now you become, you know, the master of your ship. You're able to... oh, and the other thing is that incarceration breaks family ties.
True.
It also makes a poor person even poorer. And then it disconnects a person from reality. So now they get back into society. And they are supposed to cope as if they never left. This is a person who can never get a certificate of good conduct. How they get a job, no one cares. No support. Some of them have no families to go to. Or if they do, the families have their own issues that they are sorting, and so they're all alone. And sometimes they become victims, and they feel that at least there I had a family, at least there I had a structure, at least there. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect is that this is a person now who has to survive. They have to eat, they have to, and how do they do that? Sometimes they have to break the law to do that. So they end up doing it. And so, and I think there was a clip that was going around. I don't know whether it was by Citizen. There was this guy who was being read to his charges, and he was just telling the court, please don't even read me charges. Just take me to prison. I need to eat. Yeah, I need a meal. So you find that there are desperate situations. Most reoffenders are poor. Yes. Most reoffenders are just people who had no other choice.
Like they would prefer being in prison rather than being outside here?
Sometimes prefer, sometimes it's just the rat race. They got caught up in and even the illiteracy, you know, the fact that they don't even know their rights and all that. They don't know what is, sometimes they don't even know what is right, what is wrong. Some people don't know that if you heckle, you can be caught. So yeah, that is disturbing the peace. But if you understand the law, if you're literate, you would know how to carry yourself with decorum. You'll know how to keep away from trouble. You'll know how to talk to police. You'll know how to interact with people, get out of trouble. But some of these people are not able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and you with the organization also, you have a strong voice against death penalty, and at some point we spoke about, and to you it's you're like advocating against it. For you, how does now justice without action look like in your case?
Justice without action, the action being the executing of criminals.
In this concept.
Well, I think it is a very permanent way of punishing. It actually refutes, or rather, there is no coming back from murder, you know, because it is a state-sanctioned murder. So assuming this is an innocent person, or assuming there were different facts that could have led to a different verdict, it is a very permanent thing that you cannot go back on. Number two, Kenya has not been executing people since 1987. I've been asking a lot of people, would you be the hangman? A lot of people say that they wouldn't. They wouldn't apply for that job. But right now, with the level of, you know, lack of jobs, probably we would have a lot of applicants for that. But basically what we are saying is that why not just sustain? We've been in de facto abolitionists. Why can't we continue, you know, and join the bandwagon of other states, which is over 2/3 of the countries in the world, who are not executing or are abandoning or are not executing. It is high time for Kenya to get there. Life is very sacred. Article 26 provides that life should, you should, it is sacred. You cannot derogate life. And so it is important to protect this life, even if it is for a criminal. Even if it is the worst of the worst scenarios, you can give them a punishment that is a term sentence for them to serve. That would actually probably even end up, you've punished them. That is the essence of it all. The other thing is that this person cannot be redeemed. When you close the door to them by executing the death penalty, that means they cannot be restored, they cannot be rehabilitated. So if they're in prison, imagine yourself in prison, because before they become executed, they serve for some time. Will you be compliant? You're going to die. Will you be compliant?
No, definitely.
You will not. You will not even care. Like if there's any program that is being read, you will not care. If you will become,
because ultimately it's the end of life.
It hardens you even more. It makes, because beyond what are you doing beyond, you've already taken away my freedom. You now want to take away my life. So there's nothing for me to hope for. So it is a torturous experience for a lot of death row inmates. In Kenya, we have a way of commuting death sentences to life. It's another death row experience, because the only way you get out of a life sentence in Kenya is if you're in a body bag, if you die. So again, the life sentence is not a way out. My opinion is, let us punish them, give them 45 years, punish them, but don't give them sentences that are counteractive, that do not help you in a prison setup. Because we have learned that long-term serving inmates are very instrumental. When we take our, for example, when we go to the prison to teach inmates to be paralegals, the best candidates are the long-term serving inmates. Because if you're serving 45 years, that means the knowledge that I give you, even if I come again and you're there, I am able to ensure that you grow. And this person, they're very important because they offer legal advice to the other inmates for a long period of time. I can't help 100 people at one go. But if I train 10 long-term serving inmates on just paralegalism, they're able to help over 100 people. So you see, it becomes a system where these people who got in because they were poor, because they were illiterate, because they were on the wrong side of the streets, they are able to get help through these people who the society views as they should be killed. If they're given a chance and they know that, okay, I am serving 45 years, I'm paying for my sin, but I can develop myself, I can be of service, I can change my life. It becomes a more sustaining, environment. This person can be able to go and do a course in the industrial area, be able to create. I don't know whether you see the furniture that comes from the prison systems. They're top notch. So, but if a person is on death row, you can be sure they wouldn't even want that. The other thing is that when you're on death row, you can only eat, go to school, and church. So you can't play, there are a lot of things that they're, prohibited from doing. It's dehumanizing. It is in an undignified lifestyle. And I would understand why someone would say, okay, you did this crime, so pay for it. Give them a term sentence. Tell them serve 80 years. Because at least there's an end in sight. But when you say that I'm supposed to be killed, even if evidence would come later on that exonerates me, maybe I wasn't in the scene of crime, I was caught, there are cases where people are fixed but they really didn't do the crime.
Okay.
And you've already closed the door to them by executing
In
it.
in that connection, do you think life imprisonment make it better?
No, I think life imprisonment is equal to death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe sentences should be termed. Let's term the sentences.
Okay.
Yes. The other day, I think you saw Jackton's case on Chiloba's.
Yeah, and the Chiloba issue.
I was really impressed by the court because most people thought he would go for the death penalty. He went for 45 years. That is what we are saying. Let him pay for the crime. But don't dehumanize him. Right now, he's teaching. He is a brilliant guy, by the way. He was one of our people, the people we assisted. He was one of the people who learned under us, and he's doing a lot of good things in the prison. So again, let us not condemn them, because they usually say, they call them condemned. Let us not condemn them to the death penalty.
But do you think, is it serving justice to the injured party, according to your own ethic?
Yes. Let me ask you, as a victim, and we have done, and also, actually not just CELSIR, research has been done on victims. When a person is killed or executed, does it make it better? 2% say it does. The rest are like, no, it hasn't. It hasn't alleviated anything. It hasn't changed a fact. My loved one is still dead, my whatever. So basically, it is a counteractive penalty. And it actually needs to be scraped off our books. We need to go for stiffer penalties. Having the death penalty does not make people, when someone is committing a crime, they don't think, I'll be killed. They're in the heat of the moment. So it doesn't deter crime. Okay. And research has shown this. Crime is brought on by inequality, by things like, poverty. So let us punish the wrongdoers. Again, the death penalty is very, and this will come out, I hope people will see the sense in this, because it is discriminative. Because the real worst of the worst case scenarios are out there. They can afford lawyers. They're rich. They can be able to pay the bribes. But the poor of the poor go to the death row. The poor of the poor are on the death row. The people who say, or people of means who are on death row, could be actually 5% or less. So we are saying 95% of the poor are on death row. So it doesn't, and that's why I'm saying that it could be that this person represented themselves and was not able to bring out the facts, and of course the court is a court of evidence. You will be put in if you could not be able to defend yourself. So basically we need to rethink the law around the death penalty.
Okay. Before going back to CELSIR also, and also talking about your impact with the society, now what is your thought about this? This is just to trigger your mind. What's your thought about what you call mob justice? Because now if people resort to handle justice or taking justice into their own hands, in that scenario, what happens to the victim, and also, is it really justice when talk about mob justice?
It is mob injustice, not mob justice. My advice to the public is don't indulge. Don't indulge in mob justice. Because the moment you get caught, you become liable. If it is a murder, if someone was burnt to death, you're the one who will be on the hook for that. So basically, and we have a lot of clients who are, actually you have 4 clients right now who are on the death row, put on life, and we help them to do resentencing applications where they have already served 20 years, but the court still feels they should serve 45 years. So, and these are, they're saying I didn't do it, it was mob justice. So let's not indulge. That's my, it is mob injustice. Don't do it.
Okay. The outright as it is. Now, as CELSIR, one of your main objectives is to provide rehabilitation and all that to prisoners.
Yeah.
That is one of the major and the core. Now, where is the balance between the legal defense that you offer and also the human approach kind of justice that you intend to achieve under CELSIR?
Yeah, so a lot of our work in the beginning was just the legal support because I'm a lawyer. But then interacting with the prison system and all that got me to think that, well, we need to rethink this justice system because people get out, get in, get out, get in. And also the fact that most people can't afford the basic legal services. So we got to a place where we curate our services, and we curate them based on feedback that we get from our clients who are the persons behind bars. And so, for example, we give them, for example, empowerment programs, which are financial literacy for people who are just about to exit the prison, so that we train them to become more aware of their finances. You can't get a certificate of good conduct, but you have a community of ex-inmates. Can you be able to come together, form a chama, be able to loan each other, start savings, become employers, start a farm somewhere. Think about employing other people. In the long run, they become better people. We have people, so they're mad skilled, they have excellent skills, but no resources. A lot of the work that we're doing right now is to find partners who are able to link them up to Juakali jobs. And also we are looking up to a place where we can be able to provide a halfway home, where someone, for example, if they really have no place to go to, they can find a boarding facility for a few days before they get on their feet. And they're able to be productive. And in case we make money out of that, they can be able to get some package, some exit package to go and start their life somewhere. The best thing is that once we keep on lighting these candles, they keep on lighting others. And we get to a place where we have a community of people who are more, they understand better what they ought to do in life. And, they know that they did something wrong. They want to atone for their sins. They want to do something for the community because they're getting a second chance. So basically, this is, the other thing is that for some cases who are very needy, maybe like we had a case where we helped a mother get out and she had a very sick child. So we had to help, even beyond the legal. We never thought that you could, even go and help someone get medical services. But now it got us to that point. So again, we curate our services based on the conditions, the circumstances, and all that. And basically what we want is a holistic approach to our justice, a restorative approach, an approach which embraces even our African culture. Our African culture didn't have death penalty. It had ways of punishing, and they used to work. So that's what we want to embrace. Let us ensure that crime is punished, but also people get a second chance at life, and that we are able to have them get that support so that they can become better people.
Okay.
Yes.
And now, as a lady running such a, let me call it a non-profit making organization to some extent, and I'm sure you face a lot of challenges as you do these. What are some of these challenges, and also where is now the motivation that keeps you going? What is it that inspires you that each and every morning I still need to do this?
Okay, so I think top of is lack of funding, but quickly I came to that used to be my thought. Quickly I came to realize that resources is not just finances. I had a lot of resources that I was not using. In fact, my friends would call me, use me, I have a friend who, for example, is able to volunteer her 2 hours and probably she's she's a psychologist. She could be able to come to the prison, speak to someone who is facing, or rather counsel someone. We have these people who are facing traumatic events, like you have an offender who had probably sliced her child's throat. They're going through mental trauma. So you can't just go at them as a lawyer. You have to also get them help to deal with their mental anguish, you know, because now they're coming back to their senses and they say, okay, I killed my child. So you need to help these people as well. So I think we all have resources. It's just that we don't realize it. And it's a good thing that I am learning that every day. You get into partnerships that you never thought you would. Like you get into a program that you never, I had to start, go to get further training on how to do strategic development, strategic planning, how to apply for funds, how to get partnerships, how to fundraise. These are things that are everyday marketplace skills that every entrepreneur should have. And I wouldn't ever have thought of doing that had it not been for CELSIR. So now even my law firm is benefiting because I am thinking outside the box on how to get clients, on how to get partners, on how to get funds, on how to get, you know, resources. Something that people don't really use is volunteers. Volunteers are critical in any organization and should be very respected as an entity because they really keep the cogs moving. Even, you know, when the funds are not so, you know, when things are not looking up in terms of finances. So again, I have also got to realize that volunteers are important. By sharing the stories, people just come out and say, oh, this is what you do, this is what I can offer. Oh, have you thought about this? Oh, like some guy who was serving as an inmate in the US is back in Kenya, I think was deported or something, I'm not so sure, was actually giving me, you know, ideas on how my programs can become better and better. So again, and that couldn't have happened if you are not sharing the stories that we do every day. What I can tell you, Dan, is that we have cases which are, no doubt about it, terrible. No one would really want to help. But on the other end, we have really humanizing stories of children who accompany their mothers to prison. A young child who is born in prison just needs milk or a blanket to be warm in this cold season. It's raining. Or just toys, because your child at home has a toy, but she just needs a toy, a doll. So a book, a children's book which her mother can read her to, just like any other child, because this child has not committed any crime. A person who is underage or a very old person who is walking on a walking stick, who is serving a life sentence. And then you wonder, why are we using our public resources to keep a man who is not a harm to anyone, to the society, who is completely reformed? To feed one person per meal is around 267 Kenya shillings. Calculate that. Just calculate that. I think we need to change our priorities. Yeah.
Okay. Now, looking at what you're doing and all that, you're running OMG, you're offering these services at the same time. All these partnership, you have partnership also to Nigeria, for example, and also offering these pro bono services, giving back to the society. All this, how do you balance these, and how do you manage your all these activities to make sure that all of them succeed?
I have a life. After work, I have a life. I
And
go
also
home
you're a
to.
mother.
Yes, I'm a mother. I have a baby who I
Yes.
go home to, and
Yes.
I think when I go back to that little boy, I feel I have done a good thing, and that is really encouraging. Again, I said that I do a lot of self-development classes. I take a class called Proof, which is people restoring our own futures. And in this program, we are able to look at, value additional activities. We look at things that can help us grow financially, physically, emotionally, socially. And that means that through this program, I was able to come out of this idea that I had to get funding to be able to run my program. Right now, I'm thinking I need to get to make money and give back to society. So these are shifts that I'm moving, slowly by slowly, by indulging in my private affairs and my life after work, after being a lawyer, not carrying work home, just being present as a parent. But sometimes it's hard to delink, but it is worth it to also just keep that, that separation when you come to the private home space, and that helps you to become a more you're able to fill your cup so that you can fill others' cups. I don't know if that makes sense, because if your cup is not full, then you have nothing to offer.
If your cup is empty, you can't offer anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you fill it, you empty, you fill, you empty, and it's like a cycle that is very rewarding.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, in regard to the same, sometimes after seeing all this, because the narration that you just gave, what people are going through behind bars, what mothers are going through, what the aged are going through, does it affect you emotionally and also psychologically?
Yes, it does. I sometimes there are relationships where it's just professional, but there are some that is just like, there's this. Let me just say that he's not from my tribe, but he says that I'm his daughter, and every time we meet, he breaks down. And he's in his 70s. Always tells me that I don't have money. All I can give you is my blessing, my daughter. I wish I was able to give you more. So yeah, there are people you have, I don't know, probably it's because of their nature, probably, and how they perceive your help, how some people take it to be everything. And some just say that, this is just any other help, because there are a lot of people who bring help to the prisons. But yes, it definitely is a roller coaster in terms of emotions. Sometimes you cry, sometimes they pray over you, and you're like, oh Lord. Like, if they just learn you're sick, the whole prison pray for you, because it's not just their lawyer. This is the person who trains them as well. This is the person who prays with them. This is the person who links them up when they're leaving prison. This is the person who brings them toys for their children. So it becomes a more intimate relationship. Even with the officers, they become parents, sisters. They want to, like, some of them are streaming live probably because we are friends, very personal friends. So, and it's because of the work and the interaction.
Okay. How does a good day look like for you, and how does a bad day look like for you?
A good day. A good day is, like, I helped a guy who was behind bars for 36 years. That was a good day. That was a good day. He, even the family didn't even think he would get out, so they didn't come for their judgment, or even when I was telling them that he will leave on such and such a date, they didn't come, because probably they'd waited, sure. 36 years.
They'd given up, probably.
They'd given up. And so it was something for me. Okay. It was something. I'd never had that man laugh, but that day I had him laugh. And I had interacted with him. He's actually one of the reasons why I decided to not just start CELSIR, but register CELSIR as an organization. When I met him and heard his story, I was like, this is why CELSIR. And helping him get out really meant something to me. The other thing I thought, wow. So now, same story. When he got out, I was excited. I was so happy. So I tried to hug him. But I quickly realized that he was so uncomfortable. I think he thought, yeah, now I'll go back to prison. So
You almost avoided it.
he actually did.
Uh-huh.
And so I got to learn that day that these are people that, there are things that you take as everyday. You
It's
just
something
take them
that
for
he was
granted.
not used to.
Yeah, he wasn't used to that, and actually I feel that he felt that he was doing something like a crime, an offense, something that could get him into trouble. And so for me, I never like beyond the handshake. I don't do, and that I learned from him.
Okay.
So again, it's things that you learn. So I think somehow I feel that that was, I caused his blood to really shoot, the blood pressure, and I didn't really want, I was very happy that he was leaving. And I guess I expressed my joy in a way that was not very okay with him.
Okay. And you as a person, you've had engagements and also fellowships with some international bodies, and at some point also consulted for them.
Yeah.
From all those experiences and lessons, what are some of the critical lessons that you think you brought back home to a local legal justice that you think it's going to be impactful?
Yeah, I brought home the fact that human rights is a very humane thing. It's not an ideal, it's a humanizing thing. Everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves to claim their right to life. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves not to be, in an enslaved situation. So I realized that human rights is a very humanizing issue. The other thing, and as I said to you when I got to become a lawyer, I thought all criminals should be behind bars. Right now, I think, yes, criminals should be behind bars, serving sentences that are humane, and being given an opportunity to reform, because guess what? One way or another, they'll get out. Some in body bags, some walk to their freedom. We want upstanding human beings to come to the society. We want safer communities. We want people who are able to build the economy. So, and this is important because they have very good skills. They're prisoners. They are masons. They are people who understand upholstery. They know how to make a lot of the equipment and a lot of things. Some prisons are even offered coding classes. Some prisons are offered law classes. So we have people who are behind bars who are being trained to become better. But they get out at some point. Are they going to do good? And I think that's why we need to interact them differently from how we have been interacting. The other thing is that the international partners that I have had are very action-oriented. Action-oriented in the sense that they do things that are actually quantifiable, that are actually accountable. An accountable system, a transparent system, a system that is very professional. And that has helped me to be able to run CELSIR in a way that has been able to sustain its activities without running, to a grind. I'm not very old in the profession, so I wouldn't say that I came in with a lot of, money, but I came in with passion, and I came in with knowledge, and I came in with partnership. And as I said, the volunteers and the people who have been supporting have also helped the dream to grow. That's why it's never grown cold. That's why it has never died.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now speaking to the young students, talk about also the young lawyers and also to the citizens, how can we now be part of reforms, the reform movement of the legal system in Kenya? How can we play part? How can we be part of the change that we need to look into the future?
Yeah, so law students, I think you ought to know that the teachers cover 1% of law. You need to read. You need to interact with the courts. You need to interact with the case law. You need to interact with what other universities are learning. So in my case, when I was doing my master's, I realized that Harvard Law School was teaching much better than what I was learning. So I would actually tune into the Harvard Law classes, and it really made me a better lawyer. So think outside the box. The legal profession is shrinking in the sense that we have a lot more lawyers coming into the profession. We have people who even want to, to relax the laws that are there to make people who wouldn't in the past be able to become lawyers are now becoming lawyers. So we need to really think outside the box. We can't all practice, but we can be able to serve the community. And if you think about it from a service perspective and be able to monetize that service, then you become a better lawyer. Yes, instead of paper pushing.
Okay. As you get to the tail end of this conversation, now looking into like 10 years to come, what are you seeing in terms of our justice system in Kenya? And you as a person, do you think you have a role to play? And if yes, definitely, what are you looking forward to be part of?
Yeah, so for me, I feel the reform areas need to be given much more attention, and this is the legislative arm of the government. There needs to be a lot of lobbying. There needs to be a lot of attention in terms of the legal statutes that are coming out. We need to have amendments. We have had the amendment to the death penalty, for example, for a long time. We have laws, for example, that have blasphemy in our law books as an offense, which is unheard of in some countries. So we are really lagging behind in terms of reform areas, and especially on the criminal front, on the crime and justice front. We also have to move a step higher in terms of our investigation. A lot of our investigative arms are not doing their jobs. We have shoddy investigations. Police comes into a crime scene, does not cordon the area, touches everything with his hands, doesn't put on gloves, no pictures are taken. The things you see on the movie are just that, movie things. But most of our crime, unless it's a very high profile case, you find that evidence is not preserved in a manner that would ensure that justice is meted. And that's why you find that people behind bars actually don't need to be there, because someone found, for example, one of my clients, they were arrested, and later a cup full of blood was produced in court, and they said that she murdered this person. So we don't know what blood, whose blood, or what blood that was. We don't know if it was blood in the first place, but basically investigations and forensic investigation, for that matter, need to improve. We also need to embrace restorative justice. We also need to look at other alternatives to incarceration, CSOs, that is the community service orders, the probations. If someone is, for example, an addict or mentally ill, refer them to medical attention. I don't know, maybe in the future, in the far future, maybe we can even have the home arresting gadgets, yeah, so that we can be able to track people and and relieve the prisons which are overcrowded. For example, if a person is not a threat to the community, they can be able to conduct their case while outside, while being monitored. So basically, reform areas are varied. I haven't really exhausted them, but that is my angle at it. As CELSIR, we're looking at upscaling our legal services, extending them to more and more people, indigents, and people who are poor and are, people who really desire and need these services. We also are looking at the inmates as they're in prison, improving their conditions. Some of them don't have blankets, some don't have pillows, not pillows, mattresses, sorry. There are prisons, like I think our Eldoret prison sometimes, its capacity is 600 and sometimes you can find 2,000 inmates. Can you imagine? It's crazy. So that means that even turning, you have to turn, then the other people turn. It's crazy. So we need to move away from that, and it can only happen if we remove the crowds from the prison. There are people who really don't need to be in prison. Let the people who deserve to be in prison. And then the people who can serve the CSOs, the people who can go on probation, the people who can be diverted, let them be diverted. And it will be a better place. We'll have less recidivism and safer communities. Yes.
Wow, that's
and finally, sorry, I need to say this. After prison, the exiting inmates needs support, and CELSIR wishes to walk that journey with them beyond what you say, the courtroom, beyond the prison, up to their daily lives. Yes.
Wow, wonderful. And before you give us your parting shot, and also tell us where our viewers can reach you, just to appreciate our viewers who have been following this conversation all through. Thank you so much for being part of this amazing conversation. We have, just to mention a few, Peter May is saying that he's tuning. Philip White is saying that my best friend, I'm proud of you. And then Sila Bila is saying that you've got your brain in gear today. Thank you so much. We have King Eri Makoro is saying that this is a nice one. And then Nixon Teta is saying that I'll be your guest soon. Welcome, sir. Looking forward to. And then also we have Coach Isaac who is saying that very great show. Learned a lot, and a lot matters of law and justice. Congratulations, Miss Munyua. And then Koyoma Moses is saying that watching live from Eldoret, this is a great show. And many others who are mentioning. Just as you give us your parting shot, also tell us how can our viewers get your services?
Okay, so you can get our services by emailing us at CELSIR, CELSIRKE@gmail.com. CELSIRKE@gmail.com. We also are on Twitter, on Insta, we are on Facebook, and LinkedIn at CELSIR Africa. CELSIR Africa. We also, you can reach me personally if you reach out on CELSIR, on the CELSIR email. Just attention, Ann Munyua. I'll be able to get your concern personally. Basically, you can also follow us on those social media handles and follow the work that we do. We need more volunteers, we need better partners and more partners. We need to grow together. Yes.
Thank you so much, Anne, for being part of this show, and also for creating your time to be here. It's been a wonderful discussion, and also I'm sure a lot of nuggets have been passed to our viewers, which that is always the objective of this particular show. Looking forward to have you in the near future as we talk about greater things that you've achieved. Thank you so much, our viewers. It's been an awesome interaction that we've had tonight. Looking forward to see you come next week. I'm sure we have another great guest prepared for you. Looking forward to have you same place, same time. I was your host, Dandan. May you have a good night and God bless you.
CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show. Hosted by Dan. Business Minds, pioneering and inspiring entrepreneurs. Creative talks, CEO insights, success stories, value markets, and financial education. This is the CEO Show.